Welcome to another edition of the Postgame Wrap. I'm Jared Johnson. Texas Tech picked up a huge victory in Waco tonight, 39-14. The Red Raiders defeated the Bears, and it was a complete performance. Easily the best performance by Texas Tech this season, and they dominated throughout. They opened the game with a great drive on offense, played really good defense throughout. I know they gave up over 300 passing yards, but the rush defense was amazing. But before I dive into the particulars of the game, I want to take a step back and just kind of put in perspective what a big win it was. First off, the Red Raiders are the only Big 12 team in Texas to pick up a win this week. TCU lost, Texas lost, Houston didn't play. Obviously, Baylor lost because Tech beat them. So, just from that standpoint, great week for Texas Tech. Texas Tech has had road problems. They were 0-2 this season on the road, and they were 1-6 under McGuire in true road games before the win over Baylor. But that helps kind of push that to the side. Like, okay, obviously this team can play a great game on the road like they did against Baylor and Waco. Baylor really manhandled Texas Tech in Lubbock last year. So, Tech completely flipped the script on them. It's huge from that perspective for a number of reasons. One, obviously, McGuire and several of his assistant coaches came from over at Baylor to Texas Tech. So they wanted that win. They wanted to get that bad taste out of their mouths from that really disappointing performance last year. But also from a recruiting perspective, that's a big win. I mean, you could tell recruits, at least so far, that two other Big 12 teams that you've played that reside in Texas, in Houston and Baylor, you beat them both, and you beat them soundly. So that's really good. But and then just for the season, I mean, first off, now you're 500 after a really disappointing start. You're 3-3 overall in the season, but you're 2-1 in the Big 12. You have a winning record right now in the Big 12. You're in the hunt. I know, as far-fetched as that may sound to some people, especially if you think about it, from just 2 weeks ago after that really disappointing loss in Morgantown at West Virginia. But Texas Tech is there. I mean, they have a shot. It's still an outside shot, but they have a shot at least making some noise in the Big 12 the rest of the way. You start looking at the rest of the schedule and you feel a little better about it after these two really good performances against Houston and Baylor in back-to-back weeks. So that's just some kind of like big picture takes. But, man, monster game. First, I want to tip the cap to Zach Kidley, the offensive coordinator. He's received some criticism for perhaps, not being dedicated enough to the run. They ran Taj Brooks early and often. He had a monster game, a career game. He ran for, I want to make sure I get this right, according to the stats, they posted right after the game, or right during the game, 170 yards, and he had a touchdown and a 2-point conversion run on 31 carries. And again, they didn't wait till the second half to use him. They used him early. He was effective. I think he had like 40-something yards, or like maybe right around 40 or a little over 40 on the first drive. So they set the tone with Taj right off the bat. And really all the success, in my opinion, or a lot of the success, came from that. And you got to tip the cap to the offensive line as well. They played really well. Jacoby Jackson played for Cole Spencer, who was out with an injury at left guard, and he looked really good at left guard. I really like Jacoby Jackson. I think he has a bright future. But the whole offensive line, they did give up a lot of pressure. I know they gave up at least a sack or two late in the game, but for the most part, even in pass pro, and I think it was because they had set up the run and done such a good job run blocking. But Taj Brooks, 170 yards. He averaged, 5.5 yards per carry, which is really good. It seems like more than that, to be honest. A lot of yards after contact. I mean, even the announcers were saying, who aren't like Texas Tech people, were saying he's amazing, he's great, and he is. I think he's one of the very best players, certainly one of the best running backs in the Big 12. I think he's in an argument in the country. I think he's one of the best running backs around. I mean, he can, like they said, he can do it all. It's very hard to get to the ground. He's always falling forward. Good receiver. Great in pass protection. I mean, Taj is the complete college football running back, and I think he has a really bright future. I think he's going to have an opportunity in the league. I really do. I think he's going to. I think he has just a really bright future. I'm excited to see what the future holds for him. And going back to the recruiting process, I've always been a big fan of Taj Brooks. He seems from the, I don't know how many interviews we've done, like a really good dude. So I'm very happy to see him have that success. Speaking of really good dudes, Barrett Morton, great performance. They kept talking about the bad performance last year against Baylor, and he did have a bad performance last year, but this is two really solid performances in a row, against Houston and now Baylor. Threw for 3 touchdowns and ran for another. He finished 19 for 26 for 180 yards, 3 touchdowns. He did have the 1 interception. And then he didn't run a lot, which good, but he did have that touchdown run, which was nice. Cameron Valdez had 6 carries for 21 yards. Not a great average, but he was still solid. Some receivers, Baylor Cup, the tight end, 2 catches, both of them touchdowns, 34 yards, which was nice. That one pass from Morton, the first one especially, was beautiful, man. It was a really good catch with the defender right all over him from Baylor Cup. Miles Price had 10 catches for 90 yards, so good job from him. As we also had a nice punt return as well. Quay Aiken caught his first touchdown as a Red Raider. 2 catches, 20 yards, and a touchdown. So everybody else was pretty quiet in terms of receivers. They didn't pass a lot, but they didn't have to. They ran the ball. They ran it well. Defensively, Steve Linton, 3 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. He really built upon a solid second half against Houston, and actually talked with defensive coordinator Tim DeRuyter about it going into this game. And looks like the light has come on for Steve Linton, and watch out, because that makes Tech's defense that much better. But he wasn't the only one. A lot of guys had good games. C.J. Baskerville was really good, especially early. Charles Esters, Duda Banks at defensive line. All the defensive linemen played well. Tony Bradford, Jalen Hutchings, Miles Cole coming off the edge, the other side from Linton, had a good game as well. I mentioned Charles Esters. He flashed a lot. I think he had a couple sacks. The Tech forced 4 fumbles, had 6 sacks overall, 1 fumble recovery. Ben Roberts had a forced fumble. He played well again. Braylon Lux was tested a lot, and for the most part, he held up great in coverage. So that was good. Rashad Williams had some really good plays as well. He looked really good. Malik Dunlap was solid. Rabbit got burned on a couple of plays, but he made some plays as well. So he was coming back from injury. Rabbit's one of your best football players. I'm not worried about him. It was a couple, just off by a couple of inches on a couple of plays that he gambled on, but he did battle and made some plays. So, Gino Garcia made his 1 field goal attempt. Austin McNamara boomed some punts. He looked really good. It was just another all-around very solid performance. Tech's rush defense is something that needs to be highlighted. Baylor really dominated Texas Tech in the trenches, ran the ball for, too many yards last year. It was over 200, I believe. This year, they averaged, this is a really bad number, they averaged less than a yard per rush, 0.6 yards per rush. Just 2.6 even if you take the sack yardage out. So, some people say, it's the sacks, they shouldn't count. Well, they still average less than 3 yards per carry, even without the sacks in there. But as it's kept in college football, it was less than a yard. They finished with 17 rushing yards. Texas Tech outrushed them 187-17. That's getting it done in the trenches on both sides of the ball. So that was Joey McGuire's really main goal going into the game, and mission accomplished. Tech also didn't have a lot of penalties, only 4. That's fine. I take that every week, especially on the road. So overall, just a really clean, efficient game. Again, I want to tip the cap to Zach Kitley for being dedicated to the run. That's what they needed to do early and often and throughout the game. Taj got to show who he is. Again, his 4th consecutive game of over 100 yards rushing, which the announcer says the first time in 20 years that a Tech running back has done that. I don't know at the time of taping this who it was for Tech who did that, but I will have it on Inside of the Red Raiders tonight. I just wanted to go ahead, before having a chance to research this, I wanted to go ahead and tape this recap and get it posted for y'all. But what a great performance. Tech really needed it for this season, for the program, for a number of reasons. Big win for Joey McGuire against his former team, of course, his former head coach. And, the whole road win thing. He mentioned that in the postgame. That was huge. Because, 1-6 was 1-6. Now it's 2-6. So we'll see what they can do, moving forward. Next week, they return home to the Jones, take on Kansas State, who's coming off the loss at Oklahoma State. It's a 6 p.m. kickoff, so, that'd be a big game. You win that game, then you start really talking about Tech being in the hunt. So, this was one of those crossroads, turning points kind of games. And, man, Tech showed up and showed out and came away with a big victory. But for now, I want to thank you for watching, and until next time.